The Meet Me for Coffee podcast is on site this week at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference 2025 here in one of my favorite cities, Chicago. I'm excited to have a lot of speakers on the show this week, and we're going to be bringing some great content and hearing a lot of really great insights about what's going on in our industry and the broader supply chain. Hi everyone, welcome back to another recording of the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. We are here on site at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference, and I am joined by my good friend Kary. Kary, how are you doing today?
I'm glad we have coffee.
Yeah, I have coffee too. This might be the first time we've both had coffee on this show at this whole conference. So thanks for joining. I just ran into you today and I said I have to have you on the podcast because we haven't done this in a long time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. It's been a busy year.
Absolutely. There's been a lot going on. We were just talking, I think, we both had some weddings to get through this year. So Kary got married not too long ago. I did myself. And I think like a little something about an acquisition maybe of your company. So
technically 2024.
Okay.
December 17th, I think, was when the Trucker Tools deal closed. But and since then it has been kind of nonstop in a lot of ways.
And so when you were on my podcast last, or you're just trying to figure this out, you were still with, this was pre-acquisition.
Yep.
So tell me everything, catch me up. What's going on, and what do we need to know about what's been going on at DAT?
Yeah, it has been an exceptionally busy year. It's been great. I think we initially thought we'd do one acquisition, and 9 months later we've done 3. Yeah. So it's been a super, super interesting experience for me and for the team to go through. Trucker Tools acquisition has been phenomenal. Essentially last year, as we were thinking about where we want to take the business, we realized that the best way for us to grow and have a bunch of impact was going to be by joining a bigger platform. And I think DAT also saw, when I reached out to them to kind of talk about it, they saw the value in how deep we had gone on tracking and visibility in the brokerage space and how essential that is to really building out their entire trust and safety, kind of bring their trust and safety vision to life. Tracking is such a critical part of fraud prevention. Our fraud toolkit's been phenomenal for our brokers to continue to level up network security. So there was just a really natural fit there. So acquisition happened in December. We've had certainly, I guess today's the first day of Q1. We've had our best year ever so far, and it's only 75% of the way done. Sales have been phenomenal. We're just continuing to really grow our book of business across large brokers, small brokers, everyone in between. But I think what's been most exciting about the acquisition is it's not just about growing overall, it's about how we add more value to each other's products. And one of the very first things we did post Trucker Tools acquisition at DAT was we got in a room with some of the DAT product leaders to talk about this carrier management suite they wanted to build out, which was essentially bringing vetting into the DAT workflow. If you kind of zoom out and think about DAT, it is the biggest marketplace in the spot world, but has largely been a point solution in a lot of ways, where you go in, you find carriers, you post loads, you make some phone calls, and then you have to leave the platform to actually vet those carriers.
Workflow moves then to TMS. And
exactly. With the addition of Trucker Tools, we saw there was a lot of potential to actually build out carrier vetting and performance management within the load board. Sure. So we are launching that, the first kind of version of the CMS, the Carrier Management Suite, next week. And what it's going to allow brokers to do is a couple of things. First and foremost, it's going to bring carrier vetting into the platform. So you're going to be able to see different qualification settings that a broker might be interested in when it comes to evaluating whether to use a carrier or not. So age of authority, inspections. We're going to bring in some of that tracking and compliance data from Trucker Tools. You can see if they're ELD integrated to build additional levels of confidence and security. But then importantly, you're also going to be able to, one of the big pieces of feedback we've gotten from brokers that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone is I post a load and then I get calls from 80 carriers who aren't qualified to work with me. By bringing this performance and vetting information into the load board, you're going to be able to filter that out and post your freight to groups of carriers that meet your criteria and just continue to, what we think that's going to do 2 things.
One, it would remove the visibility from these carriers that don't meet their specific requirements.
Exactly. We want to make it so that carriers can still use the load board to grow their own book of business. So you're going to be able to see some information about a brokerage and why you're not able to work with them, to incentivize carriers to integrate their ELDs
to consider insurance requirements or whatever it might be.
Exactly. But what we're in beta right now. What we think this is going to do is two things. One, it's going to drive a lot more efficiency for our brokerage users, and that they're not getting inbounds from carriers who don't make sense to work with.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's going to allow carriers to figure out, how do I become a better service provider to my broker customers? So what do I need to do to perform better? And kind of bottom line too is that we believe this is a really big step in leveling up the network security of DAT, which has obviously been a huge focus of the companies for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I had your CTO on the podcast at Manifest.
Yeah, Brian.
And I learned so much. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are one of the largest marketplaces.
Yeah.
And so if everyone has a fraud problem, you guys have 100x that problem to try to manage and mitigate against constantly. And he really walked through all the work that you guys are always doing to try to get ahead of it, try to stay ahead of it, right? But it's always evolving. And so that was a great episode.
Yeah, I think Brian has been phenomenal. I learn a ton from him every time I talk to him. And I think the two major focuses of the product and tech team since he came on board probably 2 years ago, first and foremost, was just stabilizing the platform. We're almost done with our migration. That's one of the major points of feedback we got from brokers a couple of years ago too, is love you guys, I need you guys, but you go down too much.
Yeah.
And throughout this migration, we've been able to drive, I think we're on our 4th or 5th consecutive month of almost 4.9 uptime, which is like best in class standard. So that's awesome. And then second is actually just obviously the carrier security and kind of network fraud prevention. So enabled single sign-on, federated login for our users, done a lot of education around phishing and how to help our broker customers and our carrier customers stop getting phished. And then actually building out product enhancements like this carrier management suite to make sure that brokers and carriers are being really thoughtful about who they engage with in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to hear that, product got together with IT, security, and you guys all came in and collaborated on this kind of next wave of product that you're releasing.
It's been really interesting to be part of the business during this time of transformation. I think you're seeing a lot of the fruits of our labor and just the impact we're having on customers with stronger uptime, reduced fraud. We're kicking carriers off the platform. We're continually evolving that. We're obviously buying businesses and evolving the product. But I think internally what folks might not be seeing as much is just how the ways of working at DAT are continuing to evolve. We're really making an effort to spend more time with our customers in person. Jarrett Stowe, who is our product lead at Trucker Tools, now runs the broker freight match product at DAT. I think he's been on the road for the last 5 or 6 weeks, just in brokerages, sitting on the floor, watching folks work, getting feedback. Our executive team's doing the same thing. So just like building that customer-centric culture and that kind of cross-functional collaboration that wasn't necessarily always the strongest historical muscle. Has been really, really exciting to be part of over the last 9 months.
And I also want to ask about, you mentioned that you're one of the largest marketplaces. A lot of people think about, the DAT solution for like more transactional situations. However, I think DAT has also recognized that brokers are taking a larger contract market share now.
Yeah.
They're wanting to find more stable carrier partnerships and increase these reutilizations. And so DAT has also been shifting some products geared around helping brokers and carriers find like smart, committed partnerships too, not just these like, transactional coverages, or accessing more of these mid-sized fleets too through the DAT product. How's that been evolving? Yeah,
it's been going well. Building out our enterprise carrier market has been a focus of the carrier sales team for probably the last year or so. Historically, DAT, a lot of these marketplaces are largely owner-operator, super small fleets. That's certainly how Trucker Tools got its start. But we've been building out the enterprise carrier segment for quite some time. We've got I think a couple thousand of them on the platform now, which is great. And we're really going in depth with those guys to understand how to use the platform in a different way. And then we're also looking at other solutions around kind of exactly what you're saying around RFPs and mini bids. That's something that we're excited to be exploring right now. We think there's a lot of opportunity for brokers to not just use us for a kind of day-to-day find a load that's picking up in 6 hours, but how can you automate more? We're just seeing in the market there was a shift from these large annual RFP cycles to couple, maybe quarter, maybe a month, or maybe even shorter than that. So how can we use our platform? We think there's a really natural fit down market, or sorry, not down market, but on the small end of those RFP cycles. It's essentially like a souped up spot market. Into just the timeline makes sense. It might not make sense to use DAT for an annual RFP, but for a smaller one, we think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? There's been so much, but we covered a lot of ground there really efficiently.
Yeah, we sure did.
Anything else we need to know about what's going on over at DAT?
Yeah, well, we bought 2 other companies. We bought Outgo, which is a carrier factoring platform, best-in-class technology. It offers fractional factoring. Is really, again, you're seeing this customer-centric theme in kind of everywhere in what we do. Bought that company. That's quite small, but has been growing really, really nicely in May. And then 2 months later, we bought Convoy.
Yes. How's that been going?
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big one. And I think we learned so much about the financial and kind of payment side of things through the Outgo acquisition that really put us in an awesome spot with Convoy, which so much of the value prop there is that payments are handled through the platform.
Sure.
So sequentially, it made a ton of sense. Our focus with Convoy right now is just scaling it. I think everyone knows the kind of legacy story there, but the platform was restarted about 18 months ago.
Okay.
So getting in the hands of more brokers. We're oversubscribed right now in terms of demand, which is great and exactly where we want to be. So we're figuring out how do we rev up the team. And I think what's there's 2 things about Convoy that are particularly exciting. One is the security of the network, best-in-class fraud prevention, and I'm not blowing smoke on that. They've got some really, really fascinating proprietary models to constantly be monitoring and managing network health and security. And the metrics they put up around that are pretty nuts. So we're looking at it as another layer. If you think about our carrier management suite as being able to toggle your preferences and have a more secure network within DAT, the Convoy network is next level from that. So that's really exciting. And then just the general focus on automation. It's something we hear every broker is focused on. How do we automate more? How do we automate more? Convoy is the only end-to-end automation platform where it's really magic when it works. So just getting in the hands of more brokers, enabling them to essentially be booking and running freight. It's almost like having another carrier pod on the sales floor running automatically in the background. And then using the rest of the tools out there like DAT or what have you to manage the rest of loads that might not be a good fit for automation right now. We've seen really quick results with brokers who are using it to really pretty radically drive down cost.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm glad you reminded me because I was going to make sure I got to that because you guys had a lot going on. We heard a lot. I mean, a lot of people are so familiar with the Convoy story and the background and what's been going on and where that platform's been passed around. And I feel like it's found its landing place. Like it's finally found its home and like where it was maybe meant to be in this industry. So I'm excited to see, the future, the continued evolution of DAT and Convoy as they merge those products.
Yeah, the main tenet of a home that I think Convoy was looking for was neutrality, and that's what DAT brings to bear. We are a neutral tech player and platform. We want to work with all brokers, all carriers, and help them pick and choose from this suite and platform of tools that we're building out. So totally agree. It's their forever home.
Awesome. Well, Kary, is this your first time attending the Inland Distribution Conference?
No, I was trying to think of that. I think this is my 3rd or 4th time because I live 3 or 4 miles from here. So it's very easy for me. Easy
commute for sure.
Yeah.
Why would you tell someone that they should check out this conference?
Yeah, I think, we were just talking about different styles of conferences before we hopped on. And I think what I like about Inland is, first of all, the amazing location. We're right on the Chicago River and it's beautiful and it's early fall, which is lovely everywhere, but especially here.
Yes.
But more importantly, I think the types of panel and sessions that are run here, they are super approachable and well-sized. You go to some conferences where it's massive ballrooms and it really kind of feels more like, am I at a sales kickoff or am I at a conference? You go to some other conferences where the quality of panel isn't quite as high, but I think here because of the JOC's obviously a journal, a news institution, the quality of and the rigor that they bring to the panels and the way they make them really approachable to everyone and not overly academic, not too salesy. I think it's
you
excellent.
Have journalists moderating the discussions for the most
Yeah.
part. And so they're like wired to ask the good questions.
Exactly.
We just saw that this morning because Ari was interviewing Jim Dana, and he was really like getting in there and to the point with those questions, and
Exactly.
making sure that we get good candid answers. So yeah, I mean, it's approachable, it's collaborative, you get good information out of it. This isn't like, notes that have buzzwords that sound good. This is what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
I appreciate how it's multimodal too. I go to a lot of just full truckload brokerage conferences, and it's nice to just get the perspective on what's happening in the LTL market, what's happening in intermodal. Obviously,
drayage, rail.
The rail merger is super top of mind for everyone right now, and how that's going to impact other players in the space. So
sure. Well, thank you so much for making time to be on the Meet Me for Coffee podcast while you were here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for meeting us for coffee today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Meet Me for Coffee podcast. We're recording on-site at the Journal of Commerce Inland Distribution Conference this week. If you like this episode, be sure to check out our channels where we'll have multiple others published here this week with content from the show. And in just a couple of weeks, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming, discussing where freight markets and economics meet. I hope you guys can meet us for coffee.